Welcome back. Well, the abuse of systems and processes was found to be rife in the public sector, often involving the private sector. You'll remember the Zondo Commission of Inquiry, those recommendations to improve the way government engages and awards contracts from the private sector. Well, could those reforms, if they happen, change the way procurement occurs? Could it curb corruption? We're joined now by the former head of procurement at the National Treasury, Kenneth Brown. Mr. Brown, good evening to you, and thank you very much indeed for your time. There were recommendations from the Zondo Commission. Do you believe if we follow those recommendations, it would actually make a difference in involving an improvement in some way?
Good evening, Stephen, and good evening to your viewers. Look, I think the Zondo Commission has highlighted clearly some of the problems actually within the supply chain management system there. So the recommendations that the Zondo Commission has put forward is a good start actually to try and actually kind of fix the problems that are there. But whether it will entirely fix the problems, I don't think so. I think we need quite a bit of an emergency intervention in the South African public procurement system to get it where it needs to be.
You talk about an emergency intervention. What form would that take?
Yeah. Look, basically, if one can look at the procurement system, the system is massive. 900 billion rand annually goes through actually the system, and it goes through the entire 1,000 kind of procurement entities that are the national, provincial, and local government. So what one will have to look at basically, firstly, is to what aspects of this procurement system we need to centralize and what aspects do we need to leave decentralized. That's the first area that you need to look at. Then the second area that you need to look at, which the Zondo Commission also raises, is to say, how do you then build the capacity for the system that you then basically will then design actually in that way. The third issue is we nowhere near e-procurement systems in the public sector, and many of our systems are whatever procurement we do and follow is paper-based, is archaic at the end of the day. So how do we quickly transition into an e-procurement system would be a key kind of thing. The fourth area is going to be a professionalization of the entire kind of system, building the right capacity, bringing in the right skills there. The fifth area is government will have to invest a lot of money into the systems there. If you compare how much we spend just to maintain and manage a procurement system in government, it's minuscule compared to what the private sector does. There. So we need to look at that. Then we need to learn certain aspects from the private sector. I mean, if you take some of the supermarkets, they've got over 3,000 branches across Africa, some of them, and they provide goods and services timelessly, actually, to whoever wants to buy some of it. And South Africa has actually got a modern private sector kind of system that manages massive procurements at the end of the day. What is it that they do right that we can learn from and actually don't have to reinvent the wheel and actually just bring it kind of forward? So those are some of the things that we need to think about. Instead of tinkering and focusing too much on anti-corruption, this, that, and the other, because if you focus too much on anti-corruption, you tend to over-regulate the system because you're going to get to a point where, we saw this loophole, let's close it down this way. So we need to think broadly on how we actually want to see a modern supply chain system actually in South Africa.
So, for example, when you make these suggestions, and I'm going to come back to the point about a greater sense of centralization perhaps, do you think they would stop what appears to have happened at the Tembisa Hospital, for example, where we've seen revelation after revelation that basically Babita Deokaran had blown the whistle on, and the corruption still happened? Do you think what you're suggesting would stop that kind of thing from happening, or would it still depend on the people who make the decisions?
Look, it's an important point that you're making. Now, let me bring the Tembisa Hospital things into better perspective for the viewers, right? South Africa has got, in part of its procurement rules, it says all procurement under R1 million now, it was previously 500,000, right? the entities can procure it themselves, and by doing so, they can ask for 3 quotations, etc. So there's not a lot of visibility, actually, what happens in that space of procurement. And estimations are that we're looking at close to about over 100 billion rand of that kind of procurement actually kind of happening. So there, you need an e-procurement kind of system. You need a marketplace environment similar to your Amazon.coms and your Alibabas there. So that all of that stuff is done basically electronically. If people want to place orders for certain things, it must be done actually kind of electronically. You go into a shopping basket, you pay, you check out, etc. You see, so that's the stuff that we need to think about when we talk about getting to modernize the system there.
Do you think there's actually political will to do it, Mr. Brown? And I hate to say it, but when the Zondo Commission first reported back, there was this impetus, there was this momentum, everyone's going to change everything. I haven't seen much happening since then, I'm afraid.
Look, it's quite a tough call. I don't want to venture into the politics of procurement, basically there. But I want to actually take you back a bit. In 1997, government released a green paper on public procurement and the reforms that need to happen actually within that space. In 2015, when I was CPO, we released the 2015 public sector supply chain management kind of review. Both those documents, if you were to read them, are no different from what the Zondo Commission is actually basically putting forward. So one asks, why does it take so long, given the pressing issues that we see in procurement, that the reforms are retarded in the way in which they are? I don't know, is it politics? Are there other elements at play? Is the system captured by bureaucrats, basically themselves? One will have to do an assessment, basically, on that.
If we don't fix it, are we just going to see money pouring out of the state, as I've heard some people describe it? Is that what will continue to happen?
Look, if we don't fix it, right, we will continue to have potholes. We're going to continue to have schools without the necessities. We're going to have schools where children, like Fred Norman Secondary School, where children are sitting on desks and there's nothing basically to show for at the end of the day. So you're going to have a service delivery problem. And that service delivery problem poses a serious risk actually for South Africa. In no time we're going to have quite a bit of a serious issue where people are fed up of not getting these services. And we know what happens when that happens. So for me, that is quite a much greater kind of concern there. And obviously leakage in the system will then continue unabated, unchecked, etc.
Kenneth Brown, thank you very much indeed. Really do appreciate the former head of procurement at the National Treasury.